So we are here today with Allison of Allison Event Designs, and she has a unique perspective on the wedding industry and a zone of genius, and we're going to talk about that today with her. But first, let's take a moment and get to know how she got into the wedding industry to begin with. So Allison, thank you so much for taking the time to come in today. The weather's a little nutty for both of us. We were just talking about that before we started the interview, and this, wedding industry there's so many people in it that have this vast path to how they got there. And you were telling me that you started with a linen company, but then ended up here in the Low Country area. And from there, how did you kind of end up moving into the wedding industry?
Yeah, so I originally actually went to school for fashion.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
okay.
So I've always loved playing with fabrics and colors and all the things. But obviously not doing that currently in the fashion aspect. But I kind of translate it, I'm transforming a room and I'm dressing up a room instead of a person now. But my whole background from a rental company to then opening a hotel to then designing events, that whole path has taught me so much and given me a great background of how the caterer works, what the venue needs, what a rental company needs logistically. I've helped out florist friends, so now I understand logistically what a florist needs. Yeah. And I think all of that has really just hopped from one thing to another, but has built this really great foundation that when I am helping couples now plan their wedding, I'm always in the background still thinking about the logistics of things, but also pulling that fashion sense and all the beautiful things too. Yeah. So it's kind of a chameleon of sorts of all these different backgrounds, but I think they work really well together when you're planning any kind of event, really. Yeah,
I love how you said dressing a room. That's that I feel like dressing a person would be a lot easier than dressing a room. There's so many more layers and logistics to it that I'm always in awe of what planners and lighting design and all of that can come together and do and create. But you mentioned having this kind of foundation that was built out of working with opening a hotel, which is a beast in and of itself to do. And then being able to transition with that scaffolding, that platform, into becoming a wedding planner. And you and I have kind of bumped into each other over the last, I'd say, year and a half. And your trajectory as, I would say, a new business owner, and I put that in quotes because that background has kind of pushed you faster. Would you say that's kind of like what has catapulted you beyond feeling like you're in that baby business owner realm?
100%. And it's honestly something I still mentally struggle with because there is so much out there in the industry of like, you need to hustle and you need to pay your dues and you need to do all the things. And I don't feel that way because I have been in the industry for almost 13 years now. So I have hustled. I do understand what it takes to start from scratch. Opening the hotel, we didn't have clients. We had a marketing plan and we knew the story we were telling with the hotel, but we still had to put together all the catering menus, all of the details of, okay, what time do we want events to end? What does our banquet staff look like and feel like, and how do we want our clients to feel when they walk in? What does that tour process look like? All of that was built from scratch. And so it's all of those things you can't just come up with those on a whim. No. That experience has taken time to build and to know in the industry what works really well and what doesn't. The business is young. The business is still growing. But that experience and that foundation has been 13 years in the making. Yeah. So I do struggle with that still of I have to pay my dues. I have to do all these things. But then I'm like, no, I don't. I've already done all that. It's just in a different setting.
You do, but you don't, because that's definitely where you have that background. Having moved my business multiple times over 15 years, it feels like that when you start over in a new place, and you've kind of had that experience too of starting over in new industries and then starting your own business. You have all of that wealth of knowledge that goes into that. So with that background in the industry and with that platform and being able to move into being a planner, you didn't start from scratch. And now, as you are taking on clients of your own, what do you feel like is your zone of genius that you've built over those last over a decade into this planning and owning your own business? What's that zone of genius you feel like you've brought with you?
I feel like the one thing that especially my clients always say and come back to is that they feel really connected to their event. And they feel like they really had their story told, or how they wanted to feel and their guests to feel. And that's something that I find so important when you're planning any type of event, is thinking not only just like the beautiful fluffy flowers and the pretty color palette,
which we both love,
but it's really telling that story. And telling you, whether if it's a wedding, the love story of the couple, or if it's a baby shower, like telling what now this family unit is going to look like. To me, having that connection and telling those stories is something that I find a lot easier now, because I have that foundation of the logistics and the hard stuff, if you want to put it like a hard, versus the soft, fluffy, romantic, fun storytelling. So to me, I think that's where I come into play strongest.
Well, I think your fashion background too, there's always a connection between the fashion that we put on ourselves and the connection that we're trying to make with others through that story that we're telling in the clothing. And in the same way, that kind of feeds into your story that you're telling for your clients, because you're crafting that connection point that they want to have with their guests, with each other, and that connection that you've formed with them too, and knowing that this is important to them, but this is not, and how to move through that. When you think about crafting that event for them, what are some big things that you look towards doing? What are the things that you love to do when you're crafting that, you're designing that room?
I love a solid tablescape.
Okay.
I love, because to me, that dinner setting is one of the most important. I mean, think about when you grew up, everyone had a different childhood, but for me, one of the most important things was when you sat down at the dinner table, it was you talked about what your day was, what did you learn, holidays. I come from a huge family, and every holiday was buffet style, and then everyone found a different seat. But Thanksgiving, my grandmother would build this massive table, the dining room table, plus card tables, goes from the dining room into the living room. It is massive, and everyone sits down. And so you have these special things that, to me, especially a wedding day, if you are doing a plated dinner or a sit-down dinner, having that really beautiful tablescape is, to me, I'm just nailed it. I love a layered look. I love a play of pattern and color and textures. And to me, you are able to capture all of that in a place setting where you can still get it scaled back, but you're able to also add in these really pretty touches. I had one couple this last spring that the bride loves a really beautiful Irish salt, and so she actually carries a tin of Irish salt with her everywhere. That's what she uses.
Seriously, that's amazing. And I love that.
Right, and it's so special, and it's so her.
Yeah.
And she has vintage salt and pepper cellars at home, and they use them, and that's just a part of their everyday life.
Yeah.
But to me, that's so unique. I don't carry my salt around with me. I love that idea. I wish I did something that cool. But yeah, so that was something that we pulled in, and we had vintage crystal cellars for salt and pepper at every table instead of the traditional just salt and pepper that the venue has. So to me, you can highlight so many special details in a tablescape. So I love that. Yes, I love the big picture, and I love that entry and all of that stuff, but to me, it's those really small details that I gravitate towards.
I love that. And now I wish I was that cool too.
I know, right?
So you mentioned Irish salt, which made me think of your trip that you had last year. It's funny to say that. It's hard to believe it's 2024 already. But that trip, I loved watching from afar, seeing some of your stories that you shared, and in talking with you later on when you got back. But how is that trip? How do you feel like that trip is going to inform your designs for this year and moving forward?
Big family, again, we are Irish. And so to me, that trip to Ireland was like a long time coming. I had been planning that trip in my head forever. So it was a huge like, oh my God, I feel like I'm home. But there's such a really beautiful simplicity about Ireland. And you're just really connected to nature. I mean, we went swimming in the ocean, froze our butts off completely, but it was so much fun. And just like going on really long walks and stuff like that. I've never walked more in my life than I did when I was in Ireland. But to me, that's what my couples are always connected to too, is like that real connection to nature and being outside, and whether they're biking or hiking or out on a boat, like there's always some connection to nature with my couples that I've found. And so I'm always kind of pulling that into my events. And I think that Ireland trip was kind of that same way of like getting back to that simplicity of those details, but with a real connection to nature and community. Because again, Ireland is all about, Irish heritage and connection, and that traditions that are passed on. And that's something too, that if there's a really special tradition for my couples that we tie in, whether we modernize it or not, that's fine too. But I'm always trying to kind of connect that past piece to their future life that they're building now. Because to me, a wedding is so transitional. You are now letting go of this past story that got you here, but you're really opening a new chapter, maybe a full new book, depending on what's next for you after that wedding day. So trying to have that wedding event bridge that gap to me. And that's, to me, I think what the Irish culture does all the time anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I loved that trip completely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that history, that connection that you're talking about, it creates this thread that's woven between the wedding and then informs their future. It doesn't dictate it exactly, but it's still connecting them through that whole vein into their future. And so I love that. And I love that you're looking towards that simplicity and still that vein of connection as your couples are going through that process. So this whole interview got sparked by a reel that I saw you put out. And it was dealing with what you need for a luxury wedding, or what you don't need. So if you were to be able to talk to your ideal couple right here and right now, and wedding vendors that you're working with as well on the team, what would be the thing you would say, look, these are the things I wouldn't recommend you do if you're wanting to elevate the look of your wedding, elevate the textures and the colors? What are the 3 things that you would avoid doing?
House items. I mean, that's one of those things that every venue offers, like your house chairs, your house, linens, all the things. But they're usually pretty run down. They're in every photo, so it's not different. To me, luxury is quality, and it's a unique experience. And so you're not giving that to your guests if you're doing the same thing that everyone else has. Right. But there are very specific ways that you can change it. So yes, like chairs, linens, let's do something different. Let's play with a color or a texture. Let's have something that leans in really to your personal style. The amount of times that I'll like pull items for a couple in our design deck and then our design meeting, and they'll laugh and they'll be like, I want those chairs in my dining room. I'm like, perfect. We nailed it. And now I know I'm fully understanding your personality. And again, that's where your wedding day should feel like you. It should feel like who you're aspiring to be, that's fine too, but like it should feel like you and your personality and you as a couple. Right. And so house chairs just don't do that. House linens don't do that.
They don't.
They're not steamed, they're not taken care of, they're not, it is what it is. So that's like my biggest thing, especially where I am so design focused. You know, that is one of my first areas, and I'm like, let's make sure we have the budget to like really make this look the way you want it to look. But then beyond that too, it's trusting the expertise of your vendors that you're bringing on board.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I work with every couple. We do like a big foundation call, and I get to really know what they're like. What photos do they want hanging in their home? How do they want to be interacting with their photo and video team? Do they need a hype man or woman, or do
or
they
is that
need a
like the worst
calming
thing ever?
presence?
Yes, exactly.
And so a planner that can really curate your vendor list and still give you options, because it is your day and you should still be choosing.
Yeah.
But still to have those like tailored options, to me is luxury. And then that makes sure too that the quality that I'm expecting from these vendors, I know that they can deliver. And again, that luxury goes back to the quality. So it's that experience, it's the quality, it's all those things all handed in. But then another one is just like, for me, elevating a space is like the small spaces and not letting those be missed. So like your bar top and having maybe florals or a lamp or a cigar bowl or, you know, match bowl, whatever. Those things help elevate. But again, it's so
custom pillow, all the little things. Please drape a tent. Don't leave it undraped.
Don't let it look unfinished.
Right, exactly.
Those all things, they make a difference, and they seem small, right? It seems like a small detail. But it makes all the world of difference.
It does, especially when you have it all together and you see it on the day and you're like, oh, that got missed. And it's like your eye gets drawn to it. That's like when you're a little kid and you have a bruise or something on your leg and right before family photos. And it's just the worst.
Well, and think about like when you have your home, right? You have your coffee table. If it's a blank coffee table, it's a coffee table. But if you have a layering of some really beautiful books or a bowl or whatever, now it looks finished. And it's just, again, keeping that same mindset when you're building a space for your guests and your event too.
Well, and it becomes welcoming instead of austere and very unwelcoming.
Cold even.
Cold, yes, exactly. There's something to be said for that, very minimalistic. But I love a good, welcoming, warm, layered event.
But still, even minimal can be finished.
It can.
You know, some candles on a whatever.
Something
still looks finished.
So with all of that helping to elevate the look of the event, if you were to be able to, you know, now that you've shared stuff with potential clients of what you wish they knew, what do you wish that vendors knew about working with you as a planner? Oftentimes, vendor teams get thrown together and they don't get that insight of like, hey, here's the secret thing that you need to know if we're going to work together.
I think for me, it's that prep time for an event. I try very hard to have timelines out to everyone with links to the design deck, with all the floor plans, with a little, you know, bio maybe of the couple, whatever. I try to get that to my vendors, you know, 3 to 4 weeks in advance. So, because everyone is busy, and especially if the event is in busy season, you don't have time to look at that. I know that. You know, so it's like but I do trust that if I'm giving it to you in enough time, you're looking at it more than the day before. I don't need a phone call the day before the event while I'm trying to get a rehearsal going of like, hey, where is this? Or I need that. That doesn't work for me.
Where do I park tomorrow?
Correct.
Right.
So those type of things for me, it's like I understand everyone's busy. I understand you might not know this venue yet. I understand all those things. And again, that's my foundation. I get that. But I also try to get you all that information with enough time for you to look it over and then ask me those questions. I don't want to, I'm not of like, don't talk to me after you get this. We're not changing anything. Like, I want your feedback. I want you to be able to say, hey, you only have an hour for this, but like, I've seen, you know, in your deck, you have a multi-layered flat lay. I want to be able to capture that correctly. Can we build in 15, 20 more minutes here? I want that feedback because then again, we have enough time great, let's look at that.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's what makes a really great partnership. Because again, at the end of the day, we're all here working as a team for our end client, and everyone should be able to shine the way with what they do best.
Yeah.
That's why we picked the team that we picked.
Exactly.
So for me, that's what makes a good relationship with the vendors, is that back and forth.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw you're planning this, but I think this could work better. Great, let's talk about it. Maybe we don't have the flexibility to add that in.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it. Let's see if we do. Maybe we don't have that pocket of time up here, but maybe we have it back there. Yeah. Or I can get an extra suite printed and ship it to you for before or afterwards. You know, things like that. Having that communication is paramount.
Yeah. And I think you understand that, having come from a background of having helped your floral friends out and worked at a venue and had such a varied background in all of that.
Yeah.
And that definitely makes it easier for that communication to happen and that flow of information and everything to work out as a team.
And I think it's like having it done ahead of time.
Yes.
Because yes, things are going to happen in the moment, things you're not expecting, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to then focus on those things that aren't, anything that we can pre-figure out, let's pre-figure out. To me, it's those last minute, like, you know,
oops.
Oh, forgot about, you know, we need this or that. I'm like, I don't have time to talk to you right now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is the fun part as we kind of wrap up this conversation. Well, it's fun for me. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, gosh.
But if you had to pick favorite part of the wedding day, for like what brings the tears or what is like just fills your heart?
I have two moments that are really special to me. The first is the walk into the chapel. So whether that's just the bride and her dad, that like quiet moment where it's just the two of them, or if it's, I've had two men marrying and they're walking in together. To me, that like really that last moment before they get married and are walking down the aisle, that to me is, I'm always like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then the second one is when they get to see their room. So I always love to do a room reveal or a tent reveal wherever we are. And again, it's building in those quiet moments. They can see everything without anyone in there. So to me, I love that, again, as the design side of it. Like all the hard work is like, they're happy.
Ta-da!
Yeah, yay! But it's also building in one more quiet moment before the rest of the night is gone.
Yeah.
So it's, those to me are those two pockets in the day that you can intentionally build a pause.
Yeah.
Even if it's not always together, it might be separate, but then, you know, there's just that.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, oh, okay, if I can get that one moment for them, I've made my day.
I love that. So you shared with me this like thought process of the calm and that calm before the, I don't want to say chaos, but the calm before the rush of emotions and the rush of, you know, frenetic energy that's exciting. And I love that you are aware of that. For us, we look at our couples as, you know, they don't get time by themselves at all. They've got hair and makeup in their face. They've got us as photographers in their face. You know, you ushering them where they need to be, and they don't get that moment to just pause. And so I love that you're aware of that and you're putting that kind of that space in there, and that that's also one of your favorite your favorite parts.
It's not always easy, and it doesn't always happen exactly the way you want it to, but anytime I can build in just the like, hey, just like look around for a minute. That's
we love to do that for like the first look of like, we're gonna step back and you may get to a point where you're like, what do I do? And that's okay, because you're not gonna have that time to just be
with each other.
To just be. And that's, to me, that's sad if the very celebration of a wedding is the coming together of two souls, two people, and for them not to have that moment on the day of just to be.
And that's, I think about that all the time. Like my wedding 10 years ago, weddings were very different anyway, but still we got ready separate. We had our wedding ceremony, we did photos together, we ate dinner together, but even then, like, we had a sweetheart table because that was the thing then.
Yeah.
But like his friends were coming up to him. My family was like trying not to say anything. Like they were like, she needs to eat. Like they, you know, so it was just like we weren't actually like sitting talking to each other.
Yeah.
We were like facing opposite ways. And then we both, like, I can remember this like day. I was on the dance floor. He was outside. We had this beautiful wedding venue on a mountain, and so we passed. He was coming inside. I'm going outside, and I was like, "Hey, hi." We both like remember that one moment. Those were like the few moments we spent together. We were just like having fun, doing our own thing. So I love when I see couples now like together on the dance floor. They're celebrating together. Yeah. Because we had our first dance and that was it. We didn't actually like dance together the rest of the night. We just both did our own thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think back, I hate to say, almost 17, 18 years for us. And it was very similar of like one going this way, one going that way, constant like interaction with friends. And so, that is so vital to form that connection of, you know, personal space and intimacy on the day of just having that time together. So I love that. Okay. Least favorite dance song. I told you these should be fun. Well, they're more fun for me, but least favorite dance song.
These are hard. Least favorite
or most overused.
Oh, I feel like we've been doing pretty good on overused. I feel like the bands I've been working with lately have been like really good at not being too cheesy.
Yes.
Which is good. I think for me, the biggest thing is like, obviously, I'm a big advocate for putting your personality into the event, but it's like when the couple picks a song that's like an inside joke to them and no one else understands. It's like a bad toast. Yeah. You know, like when the best man or maid of honor is like, ha 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 ha, and you're like, no one understands what you're saying. No one gets it. Like, this isn't funny. To me, those are my cringe moments. Yeah. Like when it's one of those moments where I'm like, what are we doing? This is not good.
The entire dance floor just goes.
Yeah, you can see it happening. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I can't pick up one song, but if that happens, that's my cringe.
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
For me, toasts of like, I love that when they do the toasts on at the welcome party.
Yes.
Nowadays, and at the you know, around that aspect versus doing it at the reception. It's so nice when they do that.
Just limiting the reception to, like, if you still want to do toasts like best man, maid of honor, super simple. Have, you know, whoever's hosting, whichever parents, you know, if the parents are hosting, do a welcome. I've had a lot of couples doing thank yous now, which I love.
Yes.
So it's no more receiving lines, but it's, you know, right before the dance floor kicks off, like they are saying thank you to everyone. And I love that too.
Yeah, I do. I love that too. I agree. So, last question.
Okay.
It won't be as hard. I promise. I promise. It won't be as hard. As you look into 2024 and next year, 2025, what is the thing that you are most excited about? Whether it's personal, professional?
Traveling.
Okay.
I love traveling.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were saying one of my big goals for this year and next year is definitely to travel more. To see all the different venues, to see all the different destinations and things. So that's definitely what I'm most excited about. The more often I can be like on my toes and moving around, the happier I am. So,
So you've already hit Ireland. Do you have a big bucket list location of like dream place you want to go, either personal or otherwise?
I have a huge list.
Okay.
But the next one on the list that I've been called to a little bit more often is a Switzerland trip. So to fly into Zurich, and then to still drive over to Garmisch, Germany. Yeah. My grandfather lived in Germany for a number of years, and that was his favorite city. He almost moved there and never came back. So to me, like hearing his stories as I was growing up, I always wanted to see it. And it's only like a 3-hour drive from Zurich. So I'm like, okay, great. I can do Switzerland. I can hit up the Alps. I can do some cool things. We can drive into Germany, check that out too. So I think that's kind of our next international trip anyway.
That's awesome.
But yeah, lists upon
Huge
lists.
list. Okay.
Let me know where else I should go. I'll add it to the
We'll
list.
just add it at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Allison, I appreciate you coming in and
Thank you for having me.
chatting with me and sharing about how you kind of go through your day and with working with your clients and your loves and cringe moments as well. So I appreciate you sharing with us. And I will link all of the ways you can connect with Allison on social media at the bottom of this video, and I appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Bye.